Here we are, episode 32 of the Everday Bow Hunter podcast. Once again, here with my brother Dan Zemer. I'm Mike Manley. And man, we just get done Christmas here, Dan. It's crazy how this time's flown by, and the season, we're now looking at the second season archery hitting us on the 26th, which already in.
It's already in.
Yeah,
because we're in between the week. This is Sunday after Christmas, before New Year's.
Yep. So we're a couple days off the new year. Looking forward to a fruitful 2025.
Yeah. Well, with that comes new goals, fresh start, new tags. But we got to get through late season first.
Yes. Right. So
and spring gobbler.
So we just had Christmas, and one of the things that our parents did for us, we rolled in there Christmas. We had Christmas dinner with them. Had a great Christmas dinner, and then opened up presents afterwards. And one of the presents that we got was what we're wearing right here. And
it's our cabin.
It's our cabin. It's a camp. It's a Windy Valley camp. I'm sorry. I almost said it. We do it all the time.
So the joke was, okay, so like formally, in a formal way, when you talk about a camp, like Camp David, Camp Lejeune, camp's always first, but our cabin, they named it Windy Valley Camp instead of Camp Windy Valley.
Even though
that still screws me out.
I call it Camp Windy Valley all the time.
Yeah.
As I just did. But yeah, so I had these shirts made up for us, so we figured we'd honor our parents by throwing these on here tonight.
Yeah.
And saying, yep.
It was neat. Like they were like, "Hey, you guys open these at the same time," and we pulled them out, and that was cool. It was neat.
Yeah. And so that was a great thing to start Christmas off and get us motivated for deer hunting and stuff. We actually got another shirt too that's
similar. Or the same shirt. Yeah. It's antlers, and it has a compound bow going over the top of it.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Same shirts saying the same thing.
So did you get anything archery and or hunting related for Christmas?
Yes and no. So I got a new camo hat, which is not this. It says Vortex on it.
Okay.
I got a new camo hat. Just got the Equinox guard hoodie
from Sika.
Because I got it. Okay, so I had ordered the Traverse hoodie to go with the Traverse pants. If you guys remember me talking about this, I was not happy because the Traverse hoodie is more of a mid to late season hoodie.
It is a heavy hoodie.
Where my Traverse pants are paper thin early season. So I don't know why they did that and paired it because they're not to be paired together really. So I got the Equinox guard hoodie because it has the permethrin woven into the fibers of the fabric. And that'll get me through
insect shield,
right. And that'll get me through spring gobbler, and we know how buggy spring gobbler can be. And then early season archery, it's bug central here in Pennsylvania in the early season when it's warm. So I wanted a little protection, and I am pairing that with my Traverse pants, subalpine Optifade, when everything's still green.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Oh, I got I don't know how to say it. CV pocket knife.
Oh.
For an everyday carry.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. We don't really, as far as like Christmas goes, we don't really
don't go to town.
We don't go crazy with each other. It's more about the kid. You know what I mean? We kind of do that more than anything.
So I got a fletching jig.
Okay.
With the right helical clamp, so I can fletch some arrows. I plan on picking up an arrow saw. I'm hoping maybe I can get one at the outdoor show. But if not, I'm going to get myself one. I want to, really focus on build my own arrows this year and try out, see what I can muster up, since I've been doing it kind of little by little, little by little, and try to continue down that path and do that. I got a portable power station to allow me to take all these electronics and stuff on the road with me, so I can charge stuff up on the road, and that's a pretty cool item. And really archery related, my family is terrified of buying me anything hunting wise now because of this podcast and the YouTube channel and the website, because I get so much free stuff sent to me that they're like, I'm not buying you anything. I'm not buying you a thing.
Well, when it comes to that, that's kind of like so individualistic. Like you want to pick out and buy your own stuff.
Yes.
because everybody's different and likes different things. You know?
Now, you can always do a test run like I did, get on Temu, and see if you can get a release cheap and how it compares to other releases and find out that it is so loud. Listen to this action.
Oh. Yeah, that's real loud.
That's really loud. But
So
it's actually pretty good quality. You know?
Carrie,
good as a backup.
Carrie, if you're listening, my brother-in-law, I told him about this and he started laughing his butt off. He's like, Temu? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to start taking pictures, screenshots of releases on Temu, and I'm going to start texting your brother. And he just said earlier, he goes, yeah, he did on Messenger. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do need a new release because I lost mine at the end of the season and ended up using Dan's at the end of the season. So I've been holding out on that because I also plan on going to the outdoor show and seeing what I can
find
there.
Speaking of the outdoor show, I think it starts February 9th to the 12th.
Yeah, in Harrisburg, there's a Great American Outdoor Show, and it's a huge conference. It's run by the NRA now.
Yes.
So there's tons of gun stuff there too.
Yeah. It's an awesome show.
It's incredible. Yeah.
They have so there's arenas. This is where our farm show complex is. And there's different arenas, okay? And different halls.
Yeah.
So there's wings. This place is massive. There's an archery hall that will blow your mind. You can spend all day just in there. You can test
fire bows in there. They have different, that one bow, that little crossbow thing.
That was like, it was sideways.
Vertical bow.
Yeah, vertical crossbow. It was weird. But
it's a weird thing, to shoot in there.
So I wanted to say this because you're due, okay? So February's fast approaching.
Yes, I'm going to be buying a bow, yes.
Okay, you're going to be buying a bow. And if I know you, you're probably going to want to get the show deal at the Sportsman Show. Right now would be the time to get to Extreme Archery, get to Lancaster Archery, get to Kinsey's, whatever, or whoever. Start shooting these bows so that you can go to the show and know what you want. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do need to do that. Yes.
As stressful as it is to get a brand new bow, you get to do this 2 years in a row. This is awesome.
I also have to offload my other bow.
Right.
My Matthews lift. If you don't know what that story's about, it's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
The Matthews lift did not perform. Well, it performed fine.
It's just not what you wanted.
It's not what I want shooting wise. So we'll just leave it at that. So
it's very aggressive.
Yes. Yep. So anyway, the biggest thing with the bow for me is it has to be quiet when you're in the woods, and the woods are their quietest. And you know what I mean? You're sitting out there and there's no wind and it's early morning, it's cold, and that it just...
You can hear a pin drop.
You can hear a pin drop, and just that little bit of
cam
when the cams come over and make a thud sound, it's not the right time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to eliminate that. Shooting Dan's Elite last year.
Yeah, you don't have that with that.
Yeah. So anyway, we won't dive too much into that again. But
right.
One of the things we want to talk about here tonight is we're going to talk more about as we're rolling into late season, things to look for in late season. There's a lot of things to consider that, even thinking about next year's hunting.
Yeah.
When you're out there, there's a lot of things you can find right now with the leaves off the trees and everything. It is a great time to be in the woods, and it's also one of the hardest times to be in the woods because it's the time when your significant other is probably tired of you being in the woods. and the honeydew list through the archery season has grown and grown, and now they're saying, what, you want to go out and hunt again?
Mine's a couple pages long. I might have knocked one page out of that.
So I had, my basement was archery thrashed up until today, and I did a bunch of cleaning up.
Organizational.
Yeah, I still got a long way to go. But anyway.
So on that, yeah.
Yeah, so looking at my personal plans for late season is to be able to sneak in 2 days over 3 weeks. It's only, in Pennsylvania, it runs from the 26th of December to the 20th
of January.
And there's a couple wildlife management units that go out to the 25th.
Right.
I think it's like 3 of them.
Yeah.
But so that's not a super long time, but it is way longer than even rifle season. So you can get out there, sneak in a day or two.
Traditionally, it's just such a tough season because by January, end of December, January, normally it's bitter cold. And then you got the elements that come along with that cold weather in form of precipitation, but that's where it could actually help you, is snow cover. That is a godsend when it comes to scouting your way in, and or if you do hit a deer, tracking becomes super easy.
Now, over the course of several years of hunting, I had different years where we were out even late in rifle season, and not even the late season, hunting, but just in rifle season, where we've seen where tracks have gone in the snow and saying, didn't ever see deer up this way.
Yeah.
Let me follow these tracks, and end up being, finding trails that are just beat down in the snow that you never saw before.
Right.
And discovered multiple hunting spots from that I would have never even thought of hunting before or even looked into until I saw those tracks. A great example is my son shot a doe, right? And there was a whole group of doe. And this group of doe, they blazed down this tree line and right next to this lake, and they busted across the road and they went up in the woods, right? Well, after we had taken care of my son's deer, I went back and I backtracked on those and followed where they went. And what I ended up finding was a spot where I had ended up putting a lock-on stand, hang-on stand in there, which is the same spot basically where the old man got that buck last year.
Yeah. Lakeview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so there's gold in the tracks, and and it's also seeing one of the number one things for late season hunting. Actually, it is the number one thing if you're going in kind of blind, is if you've hunted an area, where you saw, late season acorn drops.
Yeah.
Have you had any late drops? A lot of times the red oaks are the ones they're going for this time of year. You'll go out there and I think you said it before we even did the podcast, you'll think you're seeing a scrape, and it's not a scrape. It's just a bunch of area that they tore up to get to the food. To the food. So those late season food sources are huge. If you can set up on a known late season food source, you can really, really make out. I mean, they're really hitting that woody browse this time of year. So you got a lot of like saplings and stuff like that, thick sapling areas. They'll work their way through that and get on that low hanging woody browse like that and get on it, because that's really all they have in some cases. And you had talked about bucks wanting to replenish themselves.
Yeah, because the bucks just got out of rut, so they're depleted. They're down to nothing. They're not really eating very well. They're on the move, when they're in rut. So come this late season, if there's no second cycle of rut that's going to come through in that area, that's when these buck are building themselves back up. And they have to do it quick because winter's here, and that cold weather, in that cold, they're burning a lot of energy moving around in that too. So
and
right
even
now,
after the rut, the rifle hunting seasons,
they're running from that.
They're running from that too.
Right. So, they're kind of up against it here. And right now in the second season, I think that's what you got to utilize is the fact that they're going to be up on their feet feeding like crazy because they're replenishing. Now, I think the does are kind of in the same boat because they were being run. Okay. Not only were the buck running, the does were being run by the bucks if they were a hot doe. So even the younger ones, because they don't know where to go when that's all happening. So they're running too. So right now is like a vital time in late season to kind of get on that daytime feeding to kind of pattern them. And you only have 3 weeks to do it. But if you can get in on that, I think you're going to be quite successful.
And one thing that I saw quite a bit, in fact, last year I happened upon some buck bedding that was your classic examples of buck bedding where you had the bed, right, well worn into the ground because of the cold. You could see that imprint of the deer's body on there, and then with a small tree right next to the bed where they were rubbing while they were in the bed doing a rub right next to it. And where did I find that? I found that in a grove of hemlocks where in the mountains where we hunt, right? If you find, in some areas are just saturated with hemlocks in these mountains, but you got to look for where those hemlocks sit on travel routes that you know already, right? Between food, water.
Yeah.
You can go to water in the snow. Man, you can really track some deer right there.
Yeah.
But they are looking for the thermal cover provided by low-hanging hemlocks where they can get in under there and they get that thermal cover from that, and it keeps them a lot warmer versus being out in the open and where you see traditional buck bedding that you see most of the year.
Right.
They're going, and this is the does as well. So they're looking for that thermal cover to keep them warm. And just because you have pine trees that are up high, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for those thick pines that are low hanging and able to create that.
Well, that's like that real big hemlock down there at the bottom of at the creek, out there at the gas line. Remember, I called it the family tree.
Yeah,
that was this hemlock is this big around, and the radius of its overhanging branches and greenery there is like a 40-foot area. I mean, it's massive.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe 40 foot's an exaggeration. I don't know, 30 foot. But at any rate, it was so tore up underneath there. We went down in there and I was like, this is the family tree. The whole damn family's hanging out in here, And, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they really looked at they look to get warm, It's still that cold affects them, especially if it really gets cold. And you're not going to see them necessarily bed under those hemlocks like that, any other time of year than when it's cold now.
Right.
So finding that,
or kind of in sorry, not to cut you off, but in when it's really hot for shade.
Yeah. So it's a really good time to find those places. But one of the things that I've also found, and I've started doing, I think I said this in a previous podcast too, but this is one of the best times to do it. You don't have any leaves on the tree. All the foliage is down, right? You can see 10 times farther than you could any other time of the year, right? Mm-hmm. From now through March into April, whatever, is to get out there and look at that sign that you missed, right? I don't care if you're hunting at all. Get out there, find the sign that you missed. One of the things that I recommend that I've been hearing more about this, and I started doing it myself a while ago, and if you look at my Onyx app, it's saturated with plots, things that I've marked on there. And I think Dan was like, Jesus, that's horrible. Just how many things I marked. But one of the things I'm looking at marking is that you knocking it off again. So one of the things that I have really started to mark is every single rub that I find. Now, if there's a batch of rubs together, I just do one plot.
Right.
But you will find that bucks are going to do these big loops, right, in their daily run, and they're going to create rubs along those lines. So if you can find trail, you can find rubs that were done during the season, right, and aren't your old historical rubs,
right.
But even then, that helps too to see them there too, and follow that, and as many of them as you can plot on your mapping app. It doesn't have to be Onyx; it could be anything.
Right.
Right. Plot that out, and you're going to start getting an idea of that deer's home range.
Yeah.
Right. And it might vary from time to time, but there's nothing that's going to show a more significant path than where he's laying down those rubs on a regular basis. Now, you might get errant rubs off here and there, they're off, but the more you plot it on your app, the more of a picture it's going to paint over time. So you just got to work it. It's not an instantaneous process.
Yeah.
It's something you got to work over time. It's something that I've really started to see pictures a lot more on my, I couldn't do it in that one spot this year because remember that deer laid down like 20 rubs and I had like 20 scrapes. I'm not exaggerating. This whole one area, this hillside was saturated with him, and he wasn't traveling anywhere else. That was his spot.
Yeah.
That was his spot for some reason, but he was just a.
What I was going to add to what you're saying is, so you're utilizing like, on X and stuff like that to track all that. So let's say in the beginning, or in the summertime, you're doing your scouting and you're seeing where, and you're kind of getting a pattern of what's happening there. Well, archery season kicks in. That pattern, they're going to stay in the same area, but that pattern might change a little bit with the food. And then rut kicks in, so that changes a little bit too, and kind of throws them way out of whack. And they're kind of just like, it's a free-for-all at that point. But then coming into late season again, after they've just run all that, they're either going back on their old patterns, or they're creating a new one, which is going to start the new cycle. So in that late season, again, you're going to utilize that snow or the harder ground where you're going to see it beat up more to be able to, you know, see what's going on for your scouting. You have to, I mean, that season change and weather change, all that pattern for us changes the pattern. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to get at there.
Well, and one of the other things I talked about rubs, but if you look at, this is a great time to find the community scrapes, right? It's one thing to find a scrape that a buck has done. It's another thing to find those that are the year-round community scrapes.
Yeah.
Where they're, a lot of times as the year goes by, they're more focused on putting their foreheads into the tree and the branches above them than they are kicking dirt around. The kicking the dirt and digging down in the ground is normally something that's mainly during the archery season. Mm-hmm. But there are those scrapes that are year round. Now we walked up and we were putting a drive on here in rifle season, the very last day of rifle season in Pennsylvania. And we were down low, mm-hmm. remember, because the deer had been working low due to lack of water, mm-hmm. because of lack of rain. And I came across a massive community scrape. It was mm-hmm. huge. It was huge. So I made sure I marked that on my Onyx. So it's one thing to see it this year. You can collect this data, right? Excuse me. And you say, okay, I found this huge scrape here this year. You go there next year, nothing's at it.
Yeah.
But at least it gives you some place to go mm-hmm. when you're scouting for the following year and saying, hey, this was a hot spot last year. Doesn't mean it's going to be a hot spot the next year, but if it's a huge community scrape where multiple deer are hitting it, which you can tell by the fact that it's big and wide,
yeah,
right, as opposed to just your little small scrapes, and you see multiple branches hit, mm-hmm. right? And even if it's on both sides of the tree, that's a big indicator too. That you have those are the ones that you want to mark and go back to. If you see a scrape like that this time of year right now, and we're hitting in this late season,
yeah,
mark that sucker.
Yeah, mark it.
You want to know where that thing is, because that can be a huge, huge benefit to you and a great place to put a trail camera.
Yeah. So we were talking about the malnutrition side of things. So, you know, traditionally, you know, antler drops in February normally. Okay. You know, so if they hit that second rut, they're going to be super depleted again. Mm-hmm. If they get on a hot doe again, that's going to fire their second rut right back up again, you know, mm-hmm. and then they're just even more depleted. And without that nutrition, that antler drop could be in late season archery. It could be kind of the end of it, mm-hmm. closer to mid to late January versus February.
I think with the mild winters though, over the last couple of years,
yeah,
we have seen, like last year, my trail cameras were picking up bucks with their antlers on into mid-March.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when they were kind of dropping mid-March, I think it was.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it really depends. It's a nutritional based thing.
Yeah.
If they get a hard winter, if it's a hard winter, chances are they'll drop off. We had our uncle, this is quite a long time ago. I think it was in rifle season 2, and he had shot a buck.
Went to grab
and he grabbed one of the antlers, right? And to drag it, and came right off. Right? And
that deer was getting ready to shed them antlers.
Yeah, and then got it back to camp. It still had one on, but then we grabbed it to take a picture and we're just going to put the other set right on, and that one came off too.
He just had to like hold.
So
them
we
there.
Literally held the antlers on the deer's head to make it look like they were still on for the picture.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that shows you how different it is from year to year, and how the nutrition can be different from deer to deer, different places they are, even in the same mountain range.
I mean, knowing what we know now, it would have been neat to know if there was a large acorn drop that year, if there wasn't, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Knowing what
if
we
it
know
was
now.
If it was a down year for acorns, that would be.
That was like 8-9 years ago, 7-8 years ago, something. That was a long time ago.
Man, I think it might even been longer than that. That could have been like 2012 or 13.
Oh wow, yeah. It's been a while. Yeah,
it could have been a while. Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing about that. You never know.
No,
you know, and the whole one of the things that
Should get Trevor on and ask him, because the science of it.
Yeah.
He would know more where I'm just kind of talking out my ass.
But it is nutritional based and minerals.
No, I get
the
that.
mineral content of their food.
I
makes a
get that,
big
but
difference.
he's more schooled on the true science.
Yeah.
Of,
Oh,
yeah.
He's talking about my son Trevor. My son Trevor.
He was on the podcast with us,
Yeah.
talking about food and
yeah.
trees.
He graduated from Penn State in wildlife management, so he
Now would
has
be a good time to or
quite a bit of knowledge on this.
when spring hits, spring gobbler kind of time. It was like the perfect time to kind of school yourself on the trees, because everything's budding and you get to see what's happening.
Yes. So I'm slowly but surely getting better at identifying different trees, especially your mass producing trees, your acorns, different kinds. And my son's been schooling me, and he can just look to his left, look to his right, and go, oh, that's this, and not even think about it. And I have a ways to go to get there.
I just walk in the woods and go, yep, that's a tree. I do. I'm so it's weird how I can think, outside of the box for a lot of things, but some things I'm such a linear thinker, and I wish I absorbed. I'm just kind of, I'm not, I don't know. I'm kind of, a blockhead when it comes to that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, that. If you can do anything, I mean, understanding.
Yeah.
Well, this late season thing, it's huge, right? You say, okay, I want to go out there and I want to find, because I do a little research, and they're saying, oh, red oaks dropped in November.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the case. I'm just using an example.
Right.
Red oaks dropped in November, and that's probably what deer are out there scratching the ground for, digging up in the leaves to find that leftover acorn crop that's out there.
Yeah, some still good. Yeah,
some are still good, and they're digging that up. Well, where are those trees at, and what do they look like? Mm-hmm. Right?
What do they look like now when it's
what
bare
do they
and
look
wasteland?
like now, and there's no leaves on them really to identify them. My son can look at the bark on it.
Yeah,
And
that's what's.
He can look at the bark on it and say, "Oh, that's got that looks like highways there," and that's how you can tell.
Or that looks like corduroy or this or that. Yeah.
He can do that. That's a skill unto itself. If you can do that, you can go a long way to being really successful in the late season, because you figure, the other thing that you have there is, okay, we're deer really digging up in this area for food. I actually saw a video 2 or 3 days ago where a guy was out in the snow in Michigan, and he kept coming upon these areas, and he hit a huge area that was all kinds of dug up by deer, and he ended up setting up on that and killing a buck that night.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so that there, you can tell you right there, wow,
Yeah.
food, late season.
Yeah, food.
Because that's the most scarce time of the year for him, obviously.
So yesterday morning, before your son's coming home party, his oldest son came home. We had a little get together for him, which was
Last night.
It was good. I drank a little much, but that's neither here nor there. I woke up a little spaced out. We'll say that. But
I haven't given up yet.
So I was over at a buddy's house, and I had to dig 80 foot of trench for him, if that. It might have been 60 foot of trench for him. And we're just kind of looking around. He has I think close to 30 acres of property, and he was telling me that he nicked the bottom of a doe. Day after Christmas. He went out and he's showing me all his pictures. He's like, I have all these deer and I can't get a deer. It was his first year on this property. They just bought it. So I'm digging, blah, blah, blah. And he's pulls up. We're just kind of shooting the shit there, talking about stuff. And he's looking around. He goes, it's just barren wasteland right now, isn't it? It's so depressing. And yeah, it is. Right now, this time of year, all the leaves are off. Everything's bland. It's not colorful. Everything. It's real easy to kind of fall into a depression this time of year.
Yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite times to go out in the woods, because nobody's around. I like that.
The cold keeps a lot of people in.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like being out there.
And if you've been listening, you know that he likes to be away from the humans.
I do. So great example of that late season scouting thing, right? That turned into a deer. So my wife and I are out. We have our little deer chihuahua, and it's snow on the ground, and he's having a hell of a time. So we end up having to carry the damn dog. But my son Trevor's with us, and I said, you know what? There's this point right next to the road, because I started looking at all these points that are next to the road, because these buck are bedding like right next to the road, and where they can just sit there and watch the cars come by all day.
Yeah.
And they're bulletproof there because
They're smart.
They can
Yeah.
see, the wind advantage. There's all kinds of things we won't get into. But anyway, I said, I want to check this point out. So let's go up in here, and we basically push out 3 doe, and there was a three doe beds where they were just bedding, right? So fast forward a little bit farther on, we're doing scouting and stuff later in the summer or whatever, and I think, I could be wrong in the date, but you tell me, when I said, hey, up there, Mossy Oak, go up there and check that area out, because I really saw a lot of sign up there.
Yeah.
Go check it out. So what'd you find?
A lot of sign. I found a real nice buck that I had shot, and whatever, broke my heart on that one. But yeah.
But the fact is that winter scouting
pushed me to that spot because of you kind of
saying about seeing there. So it's,
I mean, but here's the thing too, is me, Dad, and Mark were there also in Spring Gobbler.
That's right.
So
That's when it was.
You went in there in winter. I went in Spring Gobbler, not knowing that you went in there in winter.
Yes. Okay.
In late season there.
I remember now. Yeah.
So when we went in there, I looked at Dad and was like,
because you were actually farther. You're actually farther down than where I was at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but still within a probably 300
yard radius. Yeah.
But these deer, as we're finding out, there's a lot of times that a lot of people tell you upper 1/3 of the mountain for deer, but yours like this one, I think the deer were down lower, because
there was a lot.
An example, Jevin, our buddy Jevin, we talked about in the previous podcast, had gotten a buck, and that buck had another huge buck the week before in the same spot.
Yeah. That's the buck that I saw when that flock of turkey came across when we were sitting in our cars taking naps. The racker runs right in front. I'm like,
at lunchtime. Yeah.
Oh, there goes that.
We should have been in the woods.
Hi, buddy.
Anyway. But then he's in just a great spot there, but it's down low next to water.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case because it was so dry, but still.
Right. But that historically has been a good spot.
Yeah. With
not necessarily where he was hunting a different spot than what the historical spot that we know of, but he kind of got to a different side of the transition where there's like dog hair sapling in there,
Yeah. The one thing I find too about that, Dan, is more and more those areas where you have that thick dog hair saplings is where these deer are going in. And, I think next year that I'm going to spend a lot more time on those transitions between those dog hair areas.
Yes.
And stuff, because that's where I had that buck stand up for me this year too.
Especially if there's water nearby.
Yep. So, I talked about the late season stuff with food and all that, but, if you having trouble trying to find, cut a track and see where you can find any tracks, the number one place to do is to look for the water sources.
Yeah. Are those tracks going to water?
Going to water, so you say to yourself, okay, what time are these? Set up trail cameras.
Yeah.
Boom. A lot of people pull their cameras this time of year, and I'm a big believer in keeping your trail cameras in the woods year round. I've had my cameras out there in bitterly cold temperatures, and they still work.
I don't want my cameras to get cold. Think about them out there all by themselves at night in that cold.
And I just bought a new Edge too. That's a total thing out of nowhere, but yeah, I got a
nice
Moultrie Edge 2.
I got the Edge 1.
Yes.
Yeah,
which I have 2 of the Edge ones.
They're nice.
But anyway,
I like the Moultrie app and everything. I like the whole Moultrie setup. I'm happy that I went with Moultrie as my first cell cam.
As far as trail cameras go, if you didn't know, if you haven't heard, I almost forgot to say about this. Did I say this in the last podcast?
I think you did was not Spy Point.
Exodus Outdoor.
Exodus
Outdoor Gear went out of business. Yeah, and
I called that.
Well, since then, since they did that, I contacted Scout Tech, the company that they had their app with previously, and I emailed Scout Tech, and they sent me. It's like within 4 days. I got. See the envelope over there?
Yeah.
That's SIM cards. They sent me 4 SIM cards for my 4 Exodus trail cameras that now I can
Use as regular cameras.
and use them as a cell camera.
Oh.
Still with Scout Tech.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So Scout Tech saved the day on that.
With the Exodus cameras.
Yeah, so I can still run those cameras. So if you have Exodus,
I don't know why I was
rival
thinking-
or render cameers,
Yeah.
you can still get back on the Scout Tech app like you were before.
You were sitting there saying SIM cards. It was not registering in this. I'm hungover. I was thinking memory cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
And that's honestly the thing about had Moultrie contacted me and asked me if I wanted to test some cameras out and stuff. So they sent me cameras. So no big deal. But I had been running the Exodus cameras and the rivals and stuff for the last couple of years, and they've been fantastic for me. And when I had problems, Exodus took care of me. They stood up behind their warranty. They did a great job with it. And it's sad to see them go out of business because of that, because they really were one of a kind in the industry with that. But the thing that happened at the end of the season for me is when my camera got stolen. No, my camera did not get stolen. I'm sorry. My camera got opened up. The antenna got broken off. And I had my SIM card and memory card stolen out of it.
Right.
The thing that can't happen with these Moultrie cameras is you're not stealing a memory card out of them. Memory's internal, right? You're not stealing the SIM card out of them. The SIM card's internal. They are multi-network. They work on any network. And that is the one unique feature. If you like to have pictures that you can take off your SIM card and load in your computer, that's one thing. I don't really care about that. I care about the data. Do I have deer here? What does he look like? Okay.
What time?
All that stuff.
Moon phase, temperatures.
And that Moultrie app does that for you. And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Exodus was going towards that. They were building that into their app. And I think a lot of them are doing that now.
Right.
But that
information is awesome.
Yeah.
To have, because you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to sit there and go through all your pictures and tabulate, what time, what was the moon phase, what was the temperature, Moultrie does it all for you.
Yeah. It has smart tags in there that'll tell you if it saw a deer, saw a bear, whatever.
When you could turn ones off if you don't want to see squirrels.
Yeah.
You can, and then it has the smart zones in it. If a leaf keeps setting your camera off, that's the Pro, Pro. Leaf keeps setting your camera off, you can block that out and it won't, I actually had to utilize that this year. And what's nice is you could be, that's up at our cabin 2 hours away. I sat here and I want that. Next thing you know, checked in about 2 hours later. Oh, okay, we're working.
Now, smart tags aren't perfect, and I know this because I have a camera set up in my backyard right now. I'm testing batteries for our company, lithium batteries. And my son went out and he stuck his head right in the camera, right? And I get an instant notification on my phone that there was a bear in front of me. So I thought that was pretty funny.
That's funny in many ways.
Must have been his beard. He has a beard. Right? So all that hair. So I have to say that's a Trevor. But that's a good one right there.
I can say so much right now.
But if anything, I guess to tie this thing up, I'm testing cold weather gear, so I'm hoping we have some. They're saying some Arctic temperatures are going to come in the next week.
Yes. So
I'm going to be able to test some of this cold weather stuff I have here.
Yeah.
And going to do some videos on that.
Yeah.
But it's sad to see the season ended, but it is exciting to see that we're heading into 2025 and there's all new opportunities and lessons that we learned can we now turn into some positive results here in the new year.
Right. This is the time of year where I start my brain starts getting off of archery. I'm not a real big fan of cold weather, and my head starts kind of like veering off into spring gobbler land.
Yeah. Dan
I love
turkey hunting.
I love turkey hunting. It to me, it's so exciting. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. You hear them things gobble in the woods. It changes everything. It's pure magic, and kind of like, in archery, you hear a deer grunting. Mm-hmm. Now take that noise times 20 and a turkey gobbles real close to you, and it's, oh, dude, I pee a little bit. I get so good.
So, hey, one of the things we're going to do here in the new year before we tie this thing up, one of the things we're going to do is we'll start doing some giveaways here as we roll into January. We'll have some stuff posted up on all the different places you can find us, and we'll talk about it more in the next podcast. But we're going to start doing some giveaways of some T-shirts and some other stuff here at whatever companies I can talk into, giving you guys some cool gear. I'd like to do a giveaway of something every month through the year here.
That would be awesome
for you as our loyal followers, subscribers, or wherever you get to catch the podcast. So thank you very much for carrying us all through 2024. It's been a great ride. The fact that we're 32 podcasts in now,
man,
incredible.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing them with you.
Yep. So that's it, Dan.
Hey, thank you everybody so much. We truly do appreciate everything.
Yep. Thanks. And until then, we'll see you next time. Hey, this is Mike once again. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want even more content from the Everyday Bow Hunter, I invite you to go over to everydaybowhunter.com or archeryhunting.com. It's the same website for the Everyday Bow Hunter. In addition, if you haven't subscribed, go to our YouTube channel. We have a lot more than the podcast there. Got more video coming every day, a lot more content. In addition, if you go over on your podcast channels or you're already there, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, please give us a 5-star review. Give us a follow. We really appreciate it. In addition, if you see an Everyday Bow Hunter shirt like this, go ahead, go to the website, go to YouTube, click on it, buy one of our shirts. Every little bit helps. We're not sponsored by anybody. In addition, in our descriptions and our show notes, we highlight products that we use and buy that we love. Now, every time you click on one of those links, we get a small commission. It really helps us out. Like I said, we're not sponsored by anyone. You're our sponsor. So with your support, we can make this channel even better. I appreciate it. And until then, I will see you next time.